tus ojos de agua infinita se bañan las estrellitas, mamá. En tus ojos de agua infinita se bañan las estrellitas, mamá. Agua de luz, agua de estrella, Pachamama vienes del cielo. Agua de luz, agua de estrella, Pachamama vienes del cielo. Limpia, limpia, limpia corazón, agua brillante, sana, sana, sana corazón, agua bendita, calma, calma, calma corazón, agua del cielo. Limpia, limpia, limpia corazón, agua brillante, sana, sana, sana corazón, agua bendita, calma, calma, calma corazón, agua del cielo. Mama, 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 mama.
So this is episode 2, and we're going to do a little deep dive. That's a follow-up to our episode 1 around Vision Quest, because there's just so much to share that we still haven't fully unraveled. And I would love to hear a bit more about your experience, babe. And I don't know where you want to start or how we want to begin this convo.
There's a lot. There's a whole lifetime of things that we came away from the journey with. Episode 2 and part 2.
Yes.
Part 2 of the last conversation we had. Yeah, because there's one way we can do this where we go more sequentially by days, but I didn't even really do it like that. Maybe it could just be, we could just go through the big insights or the big learnings or the big unveilings maybe, and maybe go back and forth.
Sounds good.
I feel like that could maybe get us somewhere.
Definitely.
How do you even unpack an experience like this is the question at hand. Yeah, well, maybe one thing to touch on is Groove with Gaia. Because that came up in my journey quite a bit, as one can imagine.
Yeah.
And the medicine showed me that Groove with Gaia is all about stewardship. It's about stewardship by channeling nature's creative intelligence and harmonious expression. Right? So actually channeling nature, being a conduit for nature, being a steward of nature, and channeling the creative energy that nature has available. And for me, nature is the most perfect system there is. It's the most symbiotic and the most sacred that there is. So yeah, Groove with Gaia is all about this channeling of nature's creative intelligence. And one of the things that was coming through around that is to begin doing events with Groove with Gaia. because that's
Brilliant.
how Groove with Gaia began, was with us on a beach similar looking to this, with rocks similar looking to this, funny enough, having silent discos
Hmm.
on the beach, feet on the earth, feet on the sand, feet in the ocean, connecting with the earth together through sound and through music. And what came through for me was re-engaging with events in a more immersive way. So as opposed to doing 1 hour or 2 hour or 3 hour dances, instead holding retreat events, holding longer events that could be 1 or 2 weeks long. And the clear message that came through was around utilizing song and dance
Hmm.
as focal points for these events, for these retreats, and specifically designing it for creators.
Oh,
So having
wow.
song and dance creator retreats. So bringing different creators, whatever the creator may be, but just people that identify as creators, that are channeling this creative energy and birthing things into the world, having a song and dance retreat specifically for them, and utilizing the medicine of song and dance to bring us to a state of flow, and utilizing that state of flow to create from our truest place
Beautiful.
and to become clear and pure channels to allow creations to flow through. So that was something that came up around Groove with Gaia.
I love that.
Yeah.
And retreats came up for me as well during my vision quest. Um, so the first thing I wrote was creator slash collaborations.
Mm.
So thinking about how creatives and creative creators can come together in a space of flow and deep connection with Mother Earth, in deep connection with one another, in deep connection with self, and how that sort of abundant state could allow for flow and allow for so much more creativity and artistry and inspiration to come through in abundance. And what does that look like to create from that space?
Totally.
So that was the first one. And then other retreat ideas that came up, I think, around like stillness and silence, just given the fact that we were experiencing this vision quest where we were in silence for most of the day, except for when we were singing medicine songs. And such a powerful experience. And I was just having a conversation with Sunflower, our good friend, yesterday, and she's all about silent retreats. Like she just had her own little silent retreat with another good friend, Erica, a few weeks back, and they just did 2 days of silence. And we were reflecting on how some people never go a day in silence. How wild is that? And so to have like spaces, like intentional spaces where you're just in silence and connecting in a ton of other ways. And during our vision class, that was so clear. Like the depth of connection that was felt by all of us in the group without any words was magical, was so potent and beautiful, you know, through this, an eye gaze, through a smile, through dance, through sound, like music and singing. Like there was connection that was felt at such a deep level and no words were shared. And I find that to be such a unique opportunity to like curate that sort of space and facilitate that sort of retreat as well. I think could be very interesting.
Do
And
you think those could be part of the same?
I think they could.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's what I was thinking.
Yeah, because I guess this is all, you know, because I wrote down dance, of course, freestyle jams. That might be a bit different. But I do think this could all be curated into a retreat.
Totally. Yeah, and I think because whether it's silence or whether it's song or whether it's dance, I think they're all forms of yoga.
100%.
You know, all forms of embodying that union between this physical and the divine realms, and using these different medicines right? Like song and dance and silence as a medicine to bring us to our truest center, our most raw core and center. And then what does it look like to create from that place? That's what's coming through, right? It's like
100%. And like when you're so filled up, like the amount of like service and like gifts that you can provide to the world is so expansive and huge. And I think that also is such a key point to all of this. It's like if Groove with Gaia is all about stewardship and stewarding the earth, stewarding community in each other,
higher consciousness.
stewarding higher consciousness, it's like facilitating these retreats to allow other folks to be stewarding their communities, stewarding their families, their ecosystems. Like that vision is so beautiful to me.
Yeah, I love that. Did anything else about Groove with Gaia come up for you?
Yes. Let me see if I can find that page again. Yeah, the other pieces was, I guess, more technical stuff around redesigning our website because I feel like that's out of date.
Definitely.
And also potentially doing like redesigning our branding. Just that came up as well as a potential interest. And then, yeah, to get more like flow into it in some way. And then Patreon came through strong. So that's something that I would love for us to like start to share our creativity on, and be able to have a bit more like depth and connection with the community that we're building and creating. And so that came through strongly, and I could see the Patreon being a place where we share ecstatic dance mixes, where we share even these episodes at some point, maybe even like exclusive behind the scenes, where we share like a more organized space for like wellness routines or wellness practices.
Did you have that written?
That maybe that was from you. Okay, maybe you share about that.
Yeah, no, I got the Patreon download as well to set up this Patreon. I also got the insight to combine that with a Discord server.
Ooh.
Even if that's not now, down the line, having some centralized like hosting mechanism for this community to communicate, to share, to ask questions. Patreon's cool, but it's not the best for like interaction.
Yeah,
it's
that's
more
true.
the best for sharing content. So I actually got a download to use Discord for everything, cross projects, but specifically to combine Patreon with a Discord server and start to cultivate the community for Groove with Gaia, because we have this whole audience that we refer to as a community.
Yes.
But we have this whole audience of people, over 200,000 on TikTok, all about like 3,500 on Instagram. And we don't really know who those people are. Actually, I only know a very small percentage of who those people are. And we call it a community, but we don't treat it like a community. And so cultivating the community of people who want to be involved more and who are on board with what we're putting down and the mission that we're putting out. And with the Patreon, one thing that was coming through in general for our content is sharing wellness routines. And there was a lot about this energy of wellness and what it means to be well in one's life, and the different aspects that touches on, the different dimensions of wellness that exist, all the way from tapping to where does your food come from, and what are understanding food cycles, understanding how things go from the ground to your plate, That's all part of wellness, getting your hands in the soil, right? And sharing different wellness practices
Hmm.
that people can integrate into their lives,
Love
which
that.
we've been on this path of integration, right? Like on a
Hmm.
mission to help people integrate these practices into their daily lives. And I think what I was receiving is a more explicit version of that, of
Beautiful.
sharing wellness practices and wellness routines. So yeah,
And
that was coming through.
and I think also sharing Q&As, like
Mm,
actually responding to, like, we get questions all the time, and to actually be able to answer those questions from our community in like a video format, I
mm,
think would be really special. We've never really done that. I
totally.
think early on we would go on live and kind of answer questions in real time. But this would allow for a more like organized fashion
Mm,
of being able to answer those questions. And I think that's also part of just like deepening the connection
mm,
and depth of who we are
mm,
and our expression. And then to be able to also see the vision of facilitating and hosting retreats where then we can connect heart to heart with these people and like the broader community that like we do hold like near and dear to our heart already, but then to actually meet them in person just really excites me.
totally.
Yeah.
Hmm. And then there was
Um,
something else about Groove of Gaia coming through around creating sponsorship packages
yes.
for organizations
Ooh.
that are mission aligned, that are also stewarding a higher consciousness, that are
Mhm.
stewarding Mother Earth, and creating sponsorship packages for them to collaborate with us in our content,
Beautiful.
and having a specific way that we do that, as opposed to these brands hitting us up with all of these different offers, all these different ways.
Mhm.
Having a clear cut way that we can engage with
Yeah.
organizations that feels good for us, that feels good for them, and that also feels good for the people that are watching our content.
Totally. And I think like being intentional about who like we choose, because I think those have been the best collaborations is the one that we've reached out to, not the
Totally.
ones that have reached out to us. Like
Mm,
there have been a few where it's like, whoa, this is in alignment. But typically it's like when we're intentional about, oh my God, we love this organization and we want to work with them, like that those collaborations have been the most fruitful in my
right.
opinion. And so like getting clear on how we reach out and collaborate would be brilliant.
Mm,
Yeah. And then what also came up around the retreats for me was like a scholarship offer, like providing accessibility for those that may not have the finances to
mm,
participate, but are incredible like creatives or just, I'm not exactly sure how we would go about like the criteria for the scholarship, but I do think having some accessible route for folks that don't have the finances to join the retreat, to be able to join the retreat and have that be an offering that maybe we sponsor.
mm.
So that came through as well around the retreats.
Wow, that's great.
Mm-hmm.
Could be that. Could also be a pay what you can,
Yeah,
or pay what you wish, and maybe there's different options.
totally.
But a scholarship sounds great. Yeah, cool.
Something like that would be cool.
Mm,
The YouTube channel also came through very clear, which hopefully you're watching this on YouTube.
yeah.
And what also came through was potentially having like a Chinese channel for,
Wow.
like being able to make our content accessible to those in China and in Hong Kong, where I'm from. And so that was something. And then maybe like if we experiment with that and see if we can broaden it out to like Spanish speaking countries as well, just to be able to have our expression, our values shared more accessibly throughout the world, I think would be really beautiful. And hopefully like encourage more inspiration around the world to, get in touch and in tune with nature and this beauty that we get to share this planet with. So,
Mm, wow.
Yeah.
现在我的中文不太好。
我的中文也不太好，但是我们可以 hire somebody. Little Chinglish there. I was like, I don't know how to say hire in Chinese anymore. But yeah, I would love to experiment with what that could be like, and yeah, maybe hire a translator that would just translate and like voice over our conversations and be able to have like a separate channel that we put out content on that's specifically targeting, you know, those that are Chinese speaking so that they have access and there aren't as many barriers. I feel like eliminating as many barriers to access is so important. And so that came through very clearly as well.
Wow, that's fantastic.
And then like general stuff that came through, babe, was just, you know, sharing creative inspiration, pouring love into all creations, having like designing a safe space, a container of connection. And then in connection with Groove with Gaia, I had this download about creation days. So setting one day a week and having that be a creation day where that whole day I just stay in a flow of creation and allow myself to explore different styles of creation, allow myself to explore different styles of editing, you know, just like all different ways of creating. And that can, you know, be like food, going from just like food and has nothing to do with Groove with Gaia, to then also being like, oh, let me explore this style of like content creation and how that feels, and just allowing myself that space to create for a whole day and just see what comes through, see what expression comes through. Also kind of having moments of stillness, of silence, moments of dance and play, essentially designing a retreat in a day, like a creative retreat in a day, and like honoring that once a week. And that also could be like going out and like taking a course, like, oh, doing a ceramics course or going and doing an archery course during the day, like kind of setting up creation days.
That's a great wellness routine.
Yeah, definitely. Oh my gosh, my foot is so asleep right now. I need to move positions.
My foot is dozing off.
Oh my gosh, I don't feel it. It's numb. Come back to life, foot.
I've become so numb, I can feel you there. Become so numb, so much more alert. You know?
Yeah, exactly. That's
Tired of being what you want me to be. A feeling so faithless, lost under the surface. I don't know what you're expecting of me, but under the pressure of walking in your shoes.
Why didn't we sing that song at the beginning? Babe, you nailed it.